Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is for you in the world. I hope you're having a good one. We've got another news and react stream today, and it is going to be a good one. Let's go ahead and dive right into this juicy news burger that we have today. I've got stuff I want to talk about. Yeah. Sorry, I'm in an upbeat mood, so I might do horrible singing quite a bit throughout this stream. So prepare. Brace thine ears for the assault. Oh yeah, there we go. Found the thing. I still struggle to remember where the buttons are to control the stream. But we must transition away from the top, middle. I don't know what I said top. The middle. Transition away from the middle of the screen and make way for the news. And there we have some news. There is a news. Okay. So I finally got around to checking out the Bill Mayer Elon Musk interview. You know, a day late and a dollar short, but what else is new? I actually do not have as much to say about this as I thought that I would. I watched the beginning and thought I might do the rest of the video as a first reaction on stream. But decided against it. Decided to keep watching, and I'm glad I made that call because, in all honesty, this one there was not a lot to it. Elon and Bill Mayer were agreeing that wokeism is a virus that needs to be dealt with. It's a lot of bad ideas within that cultural movement. The love of authority and censorship being primark amongst them. Elon warned, whatever censorship that you agree to will eventually be turned against you. Which, was good stuff. But again, nothing new. We've been saying this for quite some time now. Elon has said this in other tweets as well. So yeah, same old with that. Still fighting that good fight. And then he talked about Twitter being well on its way to bankruptcy when he bought it, and having to spend a lot of hours there at the Twitter offices to kind of right the ship, as it were. Which he has done some good things. I think he's had a couple terrible ideas, but overall, probably been good for the platform. Been a win. Yeah, so he talked about that a little bit. He made a couple awkward jokes. Both very moderate individuals that continue to have lukewarm takes. It was about all there really was to it. Good to see people in the spotlight though showing some moderation though, because we don't see enough of that these days, I think. So I mean, it's not like this was a bad interview. It's just there's not a lot to talk about here. But we checked it out. It was cool. We move on. And much more spicy news. Vice is heading for bankruptcy. They've been struggling to find a buyer, and they're saying within a few weeks they might be filing for bankruptcy. Okay, so let's link to these real quick. So yeah, if you don't know this guy, just down know where you've been. Okay, Andrew Tate, like, you should have heard of him by now. Big red pill guy. So Vice put out a quote unquote hit piece on Tate, that apparently was debunked. I thought I had a link for this too. I do not. All right. Well, anyway, they've been throwing out a bunch of floppers, and a somewhat similar news, if you can call them that, source, BuzzFeed, closed its doors recently. So we're seeing likelihood of a coming failing of Vice as well. I mean, it's been pretty irrelevant for quite some time, and so we're not surprised. At least we shouldn't be surprised to find that nobody's listening to these people. They're contrarians on one hand and bootlickers on the other, and that line has become untenable. But as classic media dies, in light of the new age continuing to soar, we embrace the future. I can't wait until places like MSNBC and Fox News close their fucking doors. Whereas the writer of this post here says, till the New York Times has similar troubles, because these are stagnated institutions who have very little connection to the real people to whom they propose to serve with their information gathering and dispersing that a news organization is supposed to do. They're little more than corporate shills these days, and people are sick of listening to corporate shills. They want to hear real people talk like real people to real people. Much more like this interview here. That was a real person talking to a real person about things that relate to real people. Crazy, huh? Anyway, in VTuber news, they are doing a 3-month-long HoloLive event called HoloLive City in Tokyo with the Tokyo Dome and a couple other venues, I think, actually involved as well. But point being, they're setting up an amusement park, like a temporary amusement park with like Ferris wheel and a bunch of other stuff. It's like a fair. It's like a HoloLive themed fair happening. It's gonna run for like 3 months long, from what I understand. So that's coming up. I think in September. I want to say September. So that's gonna be cool. All the HoloLive fans can look forward to that. I wish I could go. I actually had plans to go to Tokyo this year, sometime around September. I was thinking probably more like the end of September, October, but those plans are looking real tentative right now. So yeah, we'll see about that. And by tentative, I mean we're borderline calling it quits on it. Still holding out hope, but it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good. That said, if I do get to go to Tokyo this year, I will definitely be hitting this up. Because I bet this will be a super dope event. My question, though, is, will there be appearances But all Apollo Live. When we get a virtual concert and that kind of thing. Because I've never been to one of those. And I would like to go. I would definitely like to go. It would be cool. But yeah, they haven't dropped a lot of info on this yet. Other than laying out the basic premise and giving us a rough date. But I will be keeping my eyes peeled and ears open for more info on this in the coming future. Because very interest. Much interest. Moving on. Biden offers a $500,000 grant for English teachers in Pakistan that focus on transgender youth. I don't know what kind of la land this man is living in that he thinks the teachers are going to focus on transgender youth in Pakistan, where women get stoned for showing too much skin. Like, you're talking about bleeding edge progressivism, the worst kind in most cases. Yeah, you're talking about bleeding edge progressivism, progressive ideology, in an extremely conservative environment. I think this is actually dangerous what he's doing. Because that $500,000 is a lot of money. And he's going to motivate somebody to probably try with this shit. And that person is probably going to be endangering their life and the lives of others by doing so. So he's incentivizing people to risk their lives. For what exactly? To push an agenda. To get brownie points and widen the spread of this particular ideology without any concern for human life. That's pretty messed up, Mr. President. That's pretty messed up. I can't say I'm a fan of this decision right here. Also, again, what transgender youth is there even in Pakistan, bro? I don't know, man. Completely disconnected. Crazy. In other news, we are coming to a decision soon on whether or not we will get a 0.25% rate hike from the Federal Reserve. And it is quite the precarious situation, given the banking collapses that have already happened. Further pressure on the banks could destroy our entire economy, conceivably. Now, 0.25% ain't much. You might think, oh, that's like literally nothing. But no. It's not nothing. It's enough to send something on the edge right over the tipping point. And so you got to think, are these banks that failed outliers? Or are they a sign of more to come? Either way, I looked into this, and most of the people active in this community, the people in the stock markets, we got, I think 90-something%. I can't remember the number now. I think it was 98%. I should have written this down. It was mid to high 90s. No, might have been low 90s. It was 90-something% of them say that the Federal Reserve will commit to the price hike. We're all betting on it. And by betting, I mean, like I said, this is a stock situation. I mean, so they're literally betting money. It's not just a Well, I bet you this will happen. Like they actually are betting that it will happen. Overwhelming majority. Like I said, 90-something%. So it's gonna come. The only question is, what kind of damage will it cause? Now, technically, the Federal Reserve has not made a decision yet. So there's the slim possibility they don't do it. But with such a majority of relevant people saying it's going to happen, you could probably safely bet if you wanted to that it is going to happen. So I look forward to hearing about this. Oh my god. It's going to be wild, boys. It's going to be wild. We're either going to have a complete economic collapse, or we are going to see a stabilizing of the economy. Either way, both things are highly interesting outcomes. I'm trying to look up the date real quick. Oh, shoot, dude. It's tomorrow, bro. Fed's remaining interest rate decisions for 2023 are scheduled for May 3rd, June 14th, July 26th, September 20th, November 1st, and December 13th. So the very next one is May 3rd. This 0.25% percentage increase in the tax rate will be decided tomorrow. So come back and check out that shit, because I'll probably have a lot more to say on the subject then. We actually have definitive results. It's gonna be interesting. Moving on. This is the kind of thing that I've been seeing for years now, and continues to be a problem that I think gets worse and worse as the years go on. And it's got to stop, people. It's got to stop. Let's read over this post real quick, and then we'll go into what it is I'm really talking about here. Le guy, 22, no friends, no girlfriend, will probably never have sex. Work as Amazon wagee, making $17 an hour. No degree, too stupid for real college, too autistic and socially anxious for the military. Only have 35,000 in savings. Only 35K in savings is not a small amount of money, okay? That is a fat wad of cash. That is a fat wad of cash, okay? You know the number of things that you can get approved for with that kind of savings and decent credit score? And I bet if you've got that kind of savings, you probably do have a decent credit score. This man can buy a fucking nice ass house right now. Easy fucking day. And then you can rent that house out and probably turn a little bit of a profit. Plus, have an expensive asset to his name that would qualify him to take out more money and use it for other things. Growing his business investments. This guy's in a great spot. 5'9", average height. That's the exact average height of an American male. So he's got a good savings. He's got a pretty average job. He's average height. He started at a tech school this winter for cybersecurity, but he thinks he'll most likely give up. With that attitude, he very well might. But he's got some upward looking prospects if he can hang on to his shit. He got a 6-inch penis. It's actually slightly above average. Only very slightly, but it is above average. Too much of a coward to kill myself. What? Is anyone else here absolutely fucked? I honestly don't see myself living over the age of 30 the way things are going. This is such a fucked up existence. This man is doing okay. He's doing better than okay. I would say this man is in an above average situation. Especially if he's managed everything that he has by himself. Or mostly by himself. Because that's hard to do in this world. Most people get a little bit of a head start. One way or another. Either that, or they end up very much below average. The only people that end up average or better have a bit of a head start. And this guy is definitely doing better than the average person. But he says his prospects are grim and he wants to kill himself. The person who shared this post said the following. What psychopath taught average people in America that averageness represents complete life failure? And this is exactly the worst aspect of the internet age. We got people out here seeing these success stories, and a lot of them are even fake or overhyped or misrepresented. But seeing these success stories and thinking to themselves, why am I not so successful? And they're getting so upset about it. Like, why am I such a loser compared to everybody else? Average people. And that goes to show us what I have long said, that suffering is all relative. People can live and get by very little and deal with a lot of pain if they perceive that as normal. If you grew up in a cave and spent most of your day, every day, scrounging for food and trying to keep dry and stay warm, you would not be concerned about shit other than those things. And as long as you were managing to eat pretty well every day, you'd be pretty happy. This guy's doing way better than living in a cave because he perceives everybody else to be doing better. He's extremely unhappy. That is a sad state of affairs. Yeah, it's some shit that we've got to figure out how to fix, because there's a lot of people out here dealing with depression that they don't need to have. They just focused on doing them. They'd be all right. But unfortunately, this competitive online culture is actually destroying people's minds, especially young men. The fast-paced nature of our modern-day lifestyle does not help either. People think everything's supposed to come quick. No. People think, oh, I'm 25 already. Why am I not successful yet? It's like, bro, when your measure of success is being like a freaking business owner of a successful like franchise or some shit, I don't know, or being an established fucking award-winning author or something, then yeah, if that's your bar for success, I mean, aim at it. I'm not saying don't aim at it, but like understand that that's not supposed to come that quick. There are a few outliers that get super successful early on, but most people with that level of success, which most people just don't have that level of success, but most people that do have that level of success are much older. This delusional reality that we have painted for kids is actually destroying their psyche, and we have got to find a solution. And we got to educate these motherfuckers and let them know this is not reality, guys. Don't get bent out of shape over fantasy. I know it's easier said than done. I absolutely 100% sympathize with these people. I have been, to some degrees, a victim of this myself in the past. But whether it's easy or not, man, you gotta get away from this. This ain't it. I'm not sure what the solution is, how we can reach out and educate these kids. We do need to find a solution. I feel like this is something that would probably be talked about by good old Dr. K on Healthy Gamer. He probably would have something good to say about this. So I should bring it to his attention. Maybe I'll try later. I don't know. But we can move on for now. I just wanted to bring that to people's attention because it's crazy that normal people think they're not good enough just because they're normal people. Crazy. All right. Now a page that I am often a fan of, but sometimes not. Libs of TikTok has thanked Elon Musk for his lowering of censorship on the platform that is Twitter, and laughing at the people that are mad that Elon Musk is a subscriber to the channel. Elon Musk is a fan. And the CEO of Twitter being a fan of this page angers Mr. Matt Binder, apparently. Because Matt Binder had this to say. I noticed a few people shared that Libs notification and wondered who could they all be following that pay for those tweets. A pretty good idea of who it was, and yup, that little pink subscriber badge only shows up when you reply to someone you pay a subscription to. And then he goes to link Elon Musk replying to Libs of TikTok. Which mostly seems to be, if you actually look at these, I don't think he really cared about too much what the context was here, but I'm a little interested. Look at these, seems to be Elon taking a investigative stance at some things pointed out by Libs of TikTok. He gives the little monocle investigator lens eye thing as a reply. He says, you're welcome. Twitter won't be perfect in the future, but it'll be much better. And then he says, looking into it. Telling me that Elon Musk is paying attention to things on Twitter and doing his best to improve them, investigating matters, rather than ignoring things that don't directly make him some money. Not that improving Twitter won't make him some money, but I think he cares about it for more than just that reason. Which is why I am slowly becoming more and more of a fan of Elon Musk. I've been on the fence about this guy for a while. You know, I'm a fan of the SpaceX stuff. I'm a little torn with Tesla stuff. Especially don't like their whole thing with paying to unlock features in your car that your car is already capable of doing, but you just have to pay some arbitrary fee to get that to work. I don't like that as a business model. I don't need DLC for my car. He's overhyped some of the safety features of Tesla cars to other people's detriment, which I don't like. There's a couple other things, but there's also a bunch of obvious benefits to making a high performance electric vehicle. I think electric cars really are the future, and they should be, I believe. Getting off fossil fuels is a good thing. Trying to abandon them so quickly that we devastate our economy is not a good idea. But getting off fossil fuels is definitely a good thing. More efficient, I think, to run things off of electricity. We have to get our battery production up, and doing so in a economically and ecologically sustainable fashion is going to be a challenge, but one I think we're probably up to. I'd also like to see more alternatives in cars. I'd like to see more alternatives. I would like to see not just electric cars, but I saw some promising research on making fuel from algae, and a couple other ideas. Point being, I'm all for getting away from the fossil fuels thing, and I am all for advancing technology in general. And I think Skylink's going to be cool. There's a bit of dangerous precedents being set with it, but I think Skylink's going to be fucking cool as shit. Yeah, all that to say. Completely random tangent. All that just to say. He's done some good things. He's not a perfect person. He's done some fuck ups. But he's done some good things. And I'm becoming a fan of Elon Musk. Unlike this Mr. Matt Binder person. Lives a TikTok, though. I think they're a little overly biased. Let's go look at their page real quick, shall we? So we got, stop, sorry, at the top here. So this is just how you can subscribe to him. This is a 40-second video of some people trying to steal from a target, and he says a typical day in California. I think California is going to shit pretty well. Premise he's trying to set there is actually probably correct. Elementary school counselor in PPS Connect is holding a drag show for students in school. Counselor advertises that the event will feature I know POCs, people of color. Is it black, interracial, or something like that? Anyway, BIPOC drag queens and be centered around the exploration of gender. It's in school. Another sexual thing being brought into school. Not good. He lives at TikTok is bringing some light to that. So, another thing that he's doing, I support. That's the tweet we were just looking at. More about the kids basically being given porn in school. People denying realities of fucking biology. Supporting freedom of speech. Racism in school. Oh, this is a crazy thing, by the way. The fact that we're trying to bring back segregation, I don't care whatever justification you come up with. Bringing back segregation in schools is insane. I cannot believe we're here. This is another aspect of how we're somehow regressing as a society in the last fucking 10 years. And I think most of it in the last 5. It's absolute insanity that's happening right now. So, I mean, I'm agreeing with a lot of what's going on here. He's posting and the points he's making as he does so. Yeah, it looks like this is he's doing a lot about the whole what the fuck is this? 2 kids, 4 kids. Organization in Wisconsin has advertised a family-friendly pride event featuring drag performances by child drag queens. Two Kids, 4 Kids is a family-encouraged event which will feature performances, bounce houses, a drag story time, face painting, as well as an open question and answer. In our country's current climate, we want to set aside time specifically for families and children to experience pride. That used to be a sin. We are thrilled to have 2 of Wisconsin's biggest names in youth drag entertainment leading the way to show that drag can be for kids. Oh my fucking god. Why? Look into drag culture. Anybody who's understanding why this is wrong? Because it's actually purely sexually based. It's not just like, oh, we're letting men wear dresses. No. That's not what a drag show is about. Sexually explicit. I'm trying to promote this to children. God, it's so fucked up. Oh, here's an account promoting youth-attracted persons and defending pedos. Is it banned? Yeah. I think it's probably banned. Alright, so this one's about people not hiding gender transitioning from kids as parents. That's seems like it should be a no-brainer.
Amended favorably to the House floor by a 7-5 vote. Is it? Appreciate your time, committee. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you. As amended favorably.
Jesus, bro. Jesus. Crazy. The law is already too heavily involved. Game between parents and their children. Should be reserved for only extreme circumstances. I think I might have mentioned this yesterday, but gosh, apparently it needs repeating. Oh, there's some horrible stuff here. Let's not get too far into this. Well, I feel like I've seen some things from Libs of TikTok that were a little over the line, but he mostly just seems to be speaking out against what is clearly shit that needs to be spoke out against. So, I'm a fan. I guess we're gonna leave it at that. I've got one more news story I would like to go over, and that is not on Twitter. Japanese authorities warn Ghibli Park visitors away from taking lewd photos with characters. And as you can see in the pictures here, people are doing things like taking upskirt shots of Ghibli characters and grabbing models' boobas, and other such lewd acts. Japan. Aichi Governor Hideki Omura wants Studio Ghibli Park's operating company to stop visitors from taking lewd photos with character statues. Last month, photos of men pretending to sexually assault. Okay, see, I don't like the phrasing on this one. Can't sexually assault a statue. All right. They're making eroticism out of what is supposed to be a child-friendly place. That is bad. But they characterize this as pretending to sexually assault female characters. I don't know if I like that characterization. I think we're being overly protective of statues when we phrase things like that. It makes their crime sound worse than it is. Not that they haven't done something wrong. They have clearly done something wrong here. But sexual assault is a very negatively charged term. I think it goes a little over the top here. But I'll leave that aside. Anyway, statues in the Studio Ghibli theme park went viral on Twitter, eliciting disgust and anger from social media users. In the photos, men can be seen groping life-size figures of Marnie, a character from the 2014 film When Marnie Was There, and Teru from the 2016 film Tales from Earthsea. The man was also photographed upskirting Marnie under her white dress. Also, Marnie looks like a fucking actual child, so that's a bit weird too. But I won't get into the whole lolly thing, child not child thing. Again, that comes back to you can't sexually assault a statue. But they do be weird. And they do need to not be doing this in a public place that is supposed to be open to children. For sure. For sure. I thought this was a little something interesting to point out because, yeah, in the intensely charged atmosphere of modern day media, this is getting portrayed in a very dark way. And though it is something that needs to be that they need to put a stop to, you need to be careful about how you characterize people online, because there's repercussions for that. These people could have their lives completely ruined. You know, people might start looking to try to track down where these people live, and you don't know. All right, let's keep things realistic. Let's not sugarcoat, but let's not freaking demonize either. All right, can we just be level-headed and rational? I'd appreciate that. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That's all the news that we have for the solo reading portion of our segment today. Next up, as always, we're going to check in with the Russell Brand podcast, because I got to see what he's got to share with us today. Let's jump into that, shall we?
Hey, you're awakening. You're wonderful. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us for Stay Free on Russell Brand. You might be watching this on Twitter. Ooh,
dear,
Twitter.
careful.
Did you get verified? You might be watching this on YouTube. Do the WHO know you're there? Does your mum know you're out this late? Or you might already be watching us on Rumble, the home of free speech, where no matter what they tell you, this is a place where people can come together in peace to share opinions that potentially might damage the onward march of an authoritarian movement that seeks to dominate the globe and prevent you from communicating freely. We're going to be having a look at the. We're going to be having a look at the. We're going to be having a look at the departure of Tucker Carlson from Fox and why the Pentagon is so delighted. Sometimes I think this about radical liberals and whose views I respect and in so many cases absolutely align with. Why are they happy to be on the same side of the Department of Defense and the Pentagon on any sort of issue at all? Like when you imagine Woodstock, the late 60s, the civil rights movement, the great hot stirrings of the summer of 68, a countercultural movement, the women's movement, all these powerful voices, they weren't in alliance with big businesses and with the state. They were anti-establishment. It's so extraordinary to me how things have changed. We're going to be talking to Max Blumenthal from the Grey Zone a little bit later. We will not be able to have this conversation on YouTube.
American
I
history.
think it would be dangerous even on Elon Musk's Twitter, even within his great citadel of free speech. Would you be able to openly talk about 9/11 and the CIA? There's a link in the description. Click over to Rumble. We're going to be talking to
really
Max
into it,
Blumenthal, a fine journalist, founder of the Grey Zone, about recent revelations I can't go into here. If they're true, it's another one of those things where the conspiracy theorists had a point. And how many of those have you seen lately? But before we get into that potentially contentious story,
a lot of conspiracy theorists being
Sacre
proven
bleu!
correct lately.
France is what's French for fire?
We got French Revolution 2.0. We're gonna talk about that today. Apparently, I am excited to see Russell's take on this. Hopefully, he says something I didn't think about or provides me information that I have not received. This topic has very little information available about it right now, and I am very curious, very curious.
French?
Not a thing, no.
Well, you're supposed to know stuff like that. I look at you and I think you would at least know a bit of French because you can play a certain instrument that has French in it.
Yeah.
Why can't you speak even a word of French? Not even call yourself an on-screen assistant? Is that what your credit is now?
I don't know what it is now.
Let's have a look at what's going on. Let's have a look at what's going on in France. It looks actually like riots because people have been lied to. Let's have a look.
You can see that they've been lied to, can you?
Boiling over in France. Hundreds of thousands taking to the streets across the country.
That French copper.
Yeah.
Go back a bit and have a look again. That French copper booted that bin himself.
Booted that bin.
You're meant to be. There's no need for that. You're in the police force. A lot of people are posting words.
Pretty sure that was shoved his direction. He's shoving it back off.
Fuego. That's Spanish. You can join us on Locals. Press that red button. Become a part of our Locals community. They're so friendly in there. They talk about anything: spirituality, mental health, conspiracy theories. You know the sort of things people talk about. It's lovely in there. They're all kind to each other. Hello, Stone Owen. Hello, Meady. Hello, all of you. You can join the Locals community. You get a weekly guided meditation. You get to learn more about the community. But now, for a French copper kicking a trash can, let's see him.
Streets across the country, protesting against President Emmanuel Macron's move to raise the retirement age by 2 years to 64.
There you go. Ongoing riots and discontent in France because the people there have seen that democracy isn't working. They were rioting outside the offices of BlackRock, weren't they, Gareth? Because they know that this is about centralised finance usurping the process of democracy. And I'm always struck by this, that we are one planet in limitless, potentially infinite space, and on the same little planet with essentially the same kind of interests. And I'm, by the way, not suggesting that there should be centralized power, far from it, decentralized power at every opportunity. But on the same planet, there's those riots and there's the Met Gala, which I don't know if you know this. It's sort of like people dress up in outrageous outfits. Have a look at this footage from the Met Gala the other day. People are dressing up as mouses, as cat. Look at this. I think this is
a human
this
cat.
is the lad at Dallas Buyers Club.
Yep.
He got himself all nice and thin. He's actually tried to start a cult, I
Jared
think.
Leto, isn't it?
What?
Yeah, he played a thin. No, it's Matthew McConaughey.
He's the one that got
He
off
was
it.
he's been on our podcast before. I like Matthew McConaughey. He's a good
No,
actor.
he's great.
He is good,
But
isn't
he's
he?
not who's inside this cat. Just
It's
to be
the other
clear.
lad.
Yeah.
It's the other lad at a Dallas Buyers Club.
That's it.
He's dressed up as a giant mouse. Look, what's he?
No, it's a cat.
It's a cat. Why do you call this a mouse? Are you fucking crazy?
Matthew McConaughey's dressed as a mouse. That's no less.
This just in. Russell Brand can't tell the difference between a mouse and a cat. What the fuck, bro? How do you see mouse here? Alright, somebody get Russell his meds. Alright, who's clearly not taking them this morning. Russell, take your fucking medication.
Stupid than what's happening. Jared Leto out of Dallas Buyers Club,
Yeah.
Joker, he's dressed up as a cat. Why? Why is that happening? Like, just
Why?
in your mind, hold the image of that French copper kicking a bin because French democracy's been usurped after all those revolutions and guillotinings they've done. Look at the Met Ball. It's mental. Have a look at this whole story. It's crazy.
At fashion's biggest night, the cat is out of the bag.
Mr. Leto!
This year's theme, an homage to the late Karl Lagerfeld,
Who the
known
fuck
for
is
his
that?
signature black and white designs.
How like they went signature and they
Yeah.
showed Karl Lagerfeld doing a signature, then they went black and white designs and they showed a black and white picture of him. Like, not every word needs to be illustrated
Yeah.
with an image. It's too much,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's too overwhelming.
I don't know.
Cat
I
a
think you're
tonic
nitpicking.
about
What? Just like a tonic, a cat. It's too much. Like,
Let the video editors play with their fucking toys, okay? Leave these motherfuckers alone.
this is an homage to Karl Lagerfeld at the Met Ball. These things I remember because remember when I used to be famous.
Oh yeah.
Don't say it like that.
No, I remember it.
I was-
I was there for
I
a
totally
lot.
I was
remember
being
that, yeah.
famous,
Yeah.
and like things like that Met Ball would happen, and they're very. I never been to that,
Oh, you didn't go to the Met
but
Ball.
when I was married to Kate
Yeah.
Perry, I remember she went to that, and I was like, "Oh, do you have to go to that thing?" But
Yeah.
she wanted to,
Well,
and that's
yeah.
her right as a free individual, of course, and she did go. And like they all, like everyone goes there, they all dress. Well, they all dressed up like that. It's like it's mental, isn't it?
Yeah. What was your reason for like staying home? Just you fancied a night in or something?
I don't like things like that, mate.
Right.
I don't like things like that. It makes me nervous.
Did you maybe like you bought a curry or something? You're like, we'll have a night in. Don't go off to the Met. We'll have a nice night in.
I'll have been doing something. So I'm not trying to say, oh, look at me, aren't I normal? Because
Yeah.
I'm strange in so many ways.
Right.
But like when it
Yeah,
comes to that,
clearly.
I don't like it.
I think you are pretty normal. I'll be honest.
am I?
A night in with you is about as far away from that
I'd
as
rather
possible.
watch football, have something to eat,
Little curry. Got your trays.
got my tray on my lap, like when we watch Man City, Arsenal.
Yeah.
Mate, if you want to put a cushion, look, I'll be honest with you, my tray's already got a cushion built into the tray.
Get an extra cushion. Put it on.
Put it
That's
on
a
your
little
tray.
tip from me.
So they can have that for free. Like I know, because you can't. That's the thing with doing this job all day long.
Bless
NATO is corrupt. This war, we're being lied about. You can't trust the pharmaceutical industry. We're being censored and surveilled. But when you're going home, you're just like a normal person. Right, kids? And they don't talk to you. What did you do at school? Tell us something. Tell us something that you did at school. Like, they won't
You
tell
went
you.
to the Met Gala?
I'm just back from the Met Gala. Dallas Buyers Club was dressed as a giant cat. Like, what? What's going on? Meanwhile, France is melting down. It's too confusing. Life's too confusing. Look at the rest of the stuff they're wearing. Like, there's a bit where it goes, Karl Lagerfeld really liked dressing up in pearls, so everyone there's got...
There's a lot of space in the world, even just on this planet. And that means you can have very diverse things happening all at the same time. Just like, I'm sure, while the Met Gala was going on, and those riots were going on, somebody was probably getting murdered in the street somewhere. There was probably also some orgy going on somewhere. Somebody was graduating college somewhere. Somebody was talking to the therapist. And some mom was giving birth to her first child. All these things were happening simultaneously. Crazy, right?
loads of pearls on. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Janelle Monáe in head-to-toe black and white.
Oh, nice. That's stupid, isn't it? That. Like, that's what you wear
Is
at
this
a
your
pantomime.
Item on Russell on fashion.
I once went to Africa because of Ollie, like the country was called, I think, Uganda. I think it was that country.
And
with-
bringing up Africa really just makes me think of Get 'Em to the Greek when he played in that movie and did the really offensive fucking African themed song. You went to Africa, yes, Russell, and nobody ever wanted you to be there anymore the moment you showed up.
in Africa.
Comic Relief, was
It
it?
was a Comic Relief, British charity to raise money for all sorts of stuff. Anyway, I went there and they took me to this rubbish dump, and it was so depressing. I nearly had a mental breakdown just being there half hour, and people lived there like little kids were there foraging in the dump, and I couldn't get into the right mood. You know how you're meant to be on a telethon. Like, for just £1, I was like, that's not going to work. £1. This is mental. This is not going to be reversed by donations. This is evidence of a systemic problem. We're going to have to radically... No, just say, send £1, dial 0181. You know what I mean? They're trying to keep it on that tip, but I was having a mental breakdown. So, like, then the next day, because I was, like, in, like, my mad world of Hollywood and all that stuff, I was in, like, a John Galliano fashion show in Paris.
Wow.
And, like, it was too hard to hold together the images of all of that mad suffering in Uganda, and then seeing, like, this show of John Galliano where there were these beautiful bubbles full of smoke and people marching down a catwalk. I thought, hold on a minute, this is the same planet. This can't be right that this is happening. Something is deeply systemically wrong if you can simultaneously have that level of suffering. I tried to envisage it as one individual. If it was one individual, like a female who was like putting lipstick on her face and was all beautiful, and then you look down like her leg and it was all sort of had all maggots in a hastily amputated stump, you go, you want to sort that out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like all beautiful, but then hastily amputated stump, all maggots in it.
You should get someone to paint that. That'd be nice.
Paint it.
Yeah.
I bet AI. Get ChatGPT to do it.
Do that.
Do it now. We're talking about AI because either the fella.
I'm a bit of an artist. I can do that. I can make that. Maybe I will. I'll call it No Freedom, inspired by Russell Brand.
Right, this is the news. No, this is paraphrased news. Google man, the godfather of Google.
That's right.
He said he regrets
Google
everything
man.
he'd done. It's gone too far, AI, and he wished he'd shutted it down.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's the like he's gone. I've gone too far. It's gone too far. But before we'll talk about Google man in a minute. We're going to talk to Max Blumenthal later about. I mean, I can't believe it's true, but you know the story. CIA, 9/11, all that stuff. Let us know in the chat how you're feeling, baby. Let's go. Someone is saying, "I'm sorry for your mental illness."
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I don't mind.
Illness.
My mental like look. There is no harm in being maladjusted to a maladjusted world. It is ordinary to suffer in a world where the value systems are so out of alignment with our evolution, where our diet is out of step, where our lifestyles are out of step. If you're like, this is fine, I like this, then I don't know, man.
We've all got to be a bit mentally ill to be able to process this kind of imagery with then France or Ukraine or Uganda or whatever it is. It's incredible that we can do it and then just get on with our lives.
Do you remember the Oscars they done the year of COVID and they sort of did it in some weird basement?
Yeah.
But they still did the Oscars.
Yes, yeah, right.
Out of respect, we're doing the Oscars, going to do it down an alley. Don't do the Oscars anymore. If you either give me one or stop them. One of those things.
I guess the place where the two kind of come together was that what we spoke about yesterday, which is that White House Correspondents' Ball, whatever it is. That's the kind of the way in which like show business and this kind of ridiculousness come together with the politics.
Oh no, I clicked the thing. I fucked up, son. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, son. Don't be mad at me.
Regulation of at that White House Correspondents' Dinner is where the consensus is achieved by the centers of administrative power, aka the president, and those that are supposed to report on it. It ain't that long ago that, like, sort of like Woodward and Bernstein are like, wait a minute, we're going to bring down these sons of guns. But now it's like, all right, what do you want us to write about? What questions don't you want to ask? We'll give you the questions
that changed.
in advance.
Quick
Got
in
the
a hurry.
celebrity to our table, like Ryan Grimm told us about.
Ryan Grimmy Grimm.
Somebody who did not like being ratted out made a concerted effort to change the system that could rat him out, and succeeded brilliantly, clearly. Except that a new system has popped up, bitch. Welcome to the age of the internet. A lot of fucked up things on here, but guess what? We got freedom of speech, baby. They keep trying to stifle it, but we still got freedom of speech, baby. And now everybody has a platform on which to speak. It's crazy. It's crazy.
He was on the show. Was that yesterday's show? Yeah, it was an amazing show. But he did admit to giving Jesse Walters an almighty kick on the tip of the prinkle, didn't he?
Tip of the prinkle.
I don't think I'm
What
being
the
unfair
fuck?
when I say that that's what he admitted to. Also, there's another one of these stories that's a bit like that odd coagulation of paradoxical imagery, but we'll work that out after we've seen this lady in this outfit.
Kristen Stewart, Vanessa Hudgens, and Jenna Ortega sticking to that color scheme.
Her, I think, that one. General
Oh, wow,
Tager.
what an exclusive.
Right.
Giselle Bundchen.
I know her.
I think.
I'll sit right. This just in, guys. Firstly, 9/11 CIA. We'll tell you about it in a minute. I know her, mate. I know her.
I reckon.
We can trust this guy.
In all white for her first time back to the Met Gala as a single lady.
Single lady. So it's
the
banal
single ladies.
gossip. I bet that gazelle, she's superb, I imagine. Brilliant, beautiful, incredible. These are not critiques of these individuals. This is a critique of a sort of really crazy system where people are dressing up as cats and stuff for reasons that still seem confusing to me.
And our own Rhiannon Alley, gorgeous in
I'm
all
also a bit
black.
confused.
Lagerfeld, also known for his pearls. Serena Williams sporting
Pearls. Lagerfeld, known for his pearls. Also, though, everything is collapsing.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
France is on fire. There are unnecessary
US
wars.
banks are collapsing
Their
seemingly
banks-
every week now.
No banks now.
Yeah, we talked about that. And it's about to get worse tomorrow. Stay tuned for the end of the world.
All your money, it's gone. Meanwhile, you're spending $1,000 every year funding the military-industrial complex. Don't think about that, because we got a guy out of Dallas Buyers Club, but he's dressed as mouses. Look at that, though. Mouses. Like, it's not normal to have that happen.
It isn't.
I don't think so.
her own on the carpet. Lizzo, too. And Kim Kardashian wearing 50,000 freshwater pearls. Her dress took its makers 1,000 hours to complete. But
There's definitely nothing better that could have been done with that 1,000 hours.
Hold on, back up.
her own on the carpet. Lizzo, too. And Kim Kardashian wearing 50,000 freshwater pearls. Her dress
Is she wearing anything underneath those pearls, bro? Like, if them pearls just shifted, would there be just nipples out? Like, what's going
took
on
its
here?
makers 1,000 hours to complete. But
Ridiculous.
There's definitely nothing better that could have been done with
This
that.
is what I mean, man. Like, I don't get the ridiculousness of these outfits, bro. Like, they're just being bombastic for its own sake.
1,000 hours.
No.
Like, we've lost touch. Again, these are not criticisms of these individuals. I know what it's like to be part of that world. I was briefly part of that world. But what I sense is that we are participating in a gala of banality while there are serious things that need to be addressed. And these things don't work either, even for the people that are going there. Hedonism doesn't really work, ultimately. It's like that, even though William Blake says the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom, I think what Blake is saying is that through excess you recognize that the material world can never really fulfill you, and
Yes.
that the wisdom is,
You're
and again,
supposed to
this is
realize.
not about asceticism and the denial of pleasure. I have no judgment about how other people live, whether they drink or whether they use drugs, although of course illegal drugs, you know, while we're on YouTube you can't say stuff like that, or sex and sexuality in consensual situations, it's no one's business, etc. But this kind of orgasm of idiocy that sits at the heart of our culture, to me, seems like an indication
Orgasm
that
of idiocy.
we're on the
Well articulated, well
wrong
articulated.
path, perhaps. And like, look at this story. This is extraordinary because it ties us to a different time. Many of you love it when we have Graham Hancock on the show because he's willing to talk about Egyptology and culture and potential ancient civilizations from a different perspective. And I suppose what's fascinating about positing that we are not at the apex of the human phenomena right now, that human civilizations have risen and fallen before in the 300 million year history of our planet. Am I right? Is it 300 million years for Earth? You can Google that pretty simply, although you trusted. Like that, you know, it's possible that there
You
have been
gotta be
other
careful.
civilizations that have fallen, and many people say that Graham
You gotta be
Hancock is
careful.
not responsible in the way that he presents evidence.
Google is not as reliable as it used to be. They will feed you propaganda bullshit. Eventually you can find links to not propaganda shit. But their algorithm now heavily favors particular agendas. For sure.
But he's an amateur archaeologist, isn't he? And I think he presents some wonderful theories. Look at this. Like, they've taken some pharaoh out of his sarcophagus and like giving him his voice. I've given him his voice back. It's really, really funny because what I'm confused by it. I'm confused by it as a concept, and it's certainly very confusing as a noise. And look at all of the pageantry that went on then. We're talking about the royal wedding, not royal wedding, coronation later this week, and the amount of pageantry that went on, and it's that goes on now. Ridiculous pageantry. Well, in those days they would bury a pharaoh with their servants. They'd bury them with all sorts of artifacts and art and all that kind of stuff. Well, none of like gone in there, dug him up. Like it's just like oddly disrespectful. What do you reckon his voice was like, though? Let's get down his voice box and give him a new voice. Look at this bizarre piece of news.
Scientists were able to mimic Nessie Amun's voice by recreating his mouth and vocal cords with a 3D printer. It allowed them to produce a single sound.
Why? Let me rest! I didn't even like seeing these little tootsies down that hole, like these little bare feet, all like sort of all twizzled up by time. Like leave him down there, in there, isn't it? Don't you? Should you?
Yeah, I mean that's.
Oh! That's the sound that's the sound you could make at all culture. There's a copper kicking a bin in France. Oh!
I mean, what great revelation are they taking from this? I don't understand. Did they not think that someone back then could have made that noise?
It seems that this pharaoh, at least, was unhappy about being dug out of his tomb.
I mean, a lot of science is just experimentation for its own sake, for the most part. I think you can definitely waste money on ridiculous, frivolous things, but money and energy, time. But at the same time, so many great discoveries have come from seemingly pointless experiments. So I'm not going to say that this is horrible or bad or completely wasteful for them to have done. Yeah, I'm sure they were mostly just curious to see if reconstructing a specific vocal cord arrangement and mouth structure would actually result in being able to reproduce a human voice. And they succeeded. You know, extrapolate from that and they can probably you know, have some kind of moving semi-organic or synthetic organic structure that would allow them to replicate sentences and then really start to see what people sound like. And then, I don't know, maybe they discover there was some minor shift in vocal patterning that they just weren't aware of before. Which, I don't know, could lead to something. I don't know. I'm kind of reaching here for an explanation, but I'm not quick to write these people off, is all I'm saying.
And made to speak thousands of years later.
We are being sort of reduced to idiocy through the meter of our culture. It's like dumbing down. That's what dumbing down feels like. Here's someone dressed as a cat. Here's a copper kicking a bin. Meanwhile, banks are collapsing. Wars are going on. Agitating China. Encircling them with military bases. This experiment's not working properly. This is time for a radical reevaluation. Let us know. I mean, we're thinking about starting new communities. I believe Jared Leto tried a community, didn't he?
Wow.
But I don't know what went on.
Look at him now.
Ah! This is one of our if ever you want to know where technology could potentially take you, this is an experiment to recreate a voice box that we've shown you before, but we'll show you again because it's not disgusting, but it looks disgusting and it sounds weird.
God bless with this again. This is so bizarre. No, there is some serious like dystopian vibes in this, bro. For real, this somehow just screams dystopia.
For Christmas. What's that achieving? Yeah, it is disturbing.
It looks a bit like with that mic in front of his mouth. He's like he's at the Met Gala and someone's gone, "What are you wearing today?" And he's just.
Will you be appearing as the Joker again? Where did you get those pearls? And did it take a long time to get those out of the bottom of the sea and then polish them and then turn them into a dress? Can we have 4 more years of Joe Biden? Can we have a press dinner where nobody mentions, when celebrating journalism, that Julian Assange is in prison without trial in the United Kingdom awaiting extradition? Because of the Espionage Act, because he revealed information that's definitely sensitive, but also, I would say, relevant to the American taxpayers who are paying for these wars. Remember, you are paying $1,000 every single year to the military-industrial complex. We're going to be bringing you a report about that later
See what
this
you did
week.
There? You kind of turned that into a kind of drone, I would suggest.
Turned it to satire, Gail.
Yes.
Turned it to
Very
satire.
good. Very good.
Oh, yeah, I can use my noise.
He said, I'm doing the satire, Mom. Watch me.
Someone's pointed out that I've got this noise and I can use it whenever I want.
Oh, dear.
Like I don't have to do it myself anymore.
yeah.
I can just like go. Yeah, I can turn it to. Go and ask me a satirical question about the news or something.
Do you think it's right that U.S. spy planes should fly close to China when there was all that furore about the spy balloon in America?
Yeah,
It's very good.
satire, biting satire that we're
Biting
delivering
satire.
here.
But it doesn't have any teeth. It can't bite.
We just mentioned that banks are failing all over the gaff. Here's another one. Look, another bank's failed. Let's have a look at that. Look, First Republic Bank collapsed Spurs the fears banking system and broader
I'm
economy.
sorry.
Is that good news?
It's not great news, no. So it's 3 of the 4 largest bank failures in U.S. history have taken place over the last 2 months.
No way. Oh, what? This is worse than the
Doesn't
one
sound good.
in 2008.
These are well, 3 of the 4. So we've had 3 collapse in the last few weeks or few months.
Don't you worry about a thing.
There's a huge difference between a few weeks and a few months. Can you get your story straight, please? Don't you
BP
worry
doing
about
well,
a
though.
They're
thing.
doing very well.
British Petroleum, they're making profits. How's your electricity bill lately? Have you seen the electricity bills? They're not going up.
Exclusive.
Yeah? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me look at last year's one. You... How wild. I'm still on YouTube. Can't express myself. Yeah, Barry, John M. Fox. They're crazy high. That was soothing. Yeah, it's always nice to hear a little bit of Stevie Wonder, isn't it, guys? You can join us on Locals. Just press the button if you do. We told you a minute ago, US spy planes are over Taiwan. Taiwan want to have a war with China. I want to have a war with China.
They're in that Taiwan Strait, which is that bit of sea right between China and Taiwan.
Don't ship in South China Sea. That's going to annoy him.
Yep.
That's going to annoy him, that. But let's see what the world's best and handsomest politician is saying. Trudeau's questioned even Trudeau didn't believe that freedom convoy was as bad as he was saying it was.
No, this is his staffers who didn't believe
Oh,
it.
even his people that work
Yeah,
for Trudeau.
so the people that work for him were like behind, I guess, closed doors, were kind of like, oh, I'm not sure he should.
Even Trudeau's towers questioned his wild claims used to shut down freedom convoy protests.
be doing this.
Do you, with Justin Trudeau, always think, is it Trudeau?
Yes, I do think that all the time.
Have you ever heard those sort of conspiracy theory type sounding things saying that he's Fidel Castro's lad?
Oh, yeah.
The conspiracy theory type things. I
Well,
don't
we
think-
wouldn't be interested in that then, would we?
No, not actual conspiracy theory. I mean, also, look, always with a conspiracy theory, let me know if you agree with this, guys, in the chat. Does it make any bloody difference?
Right.
Like whatever you think about Cuba, socialism, Fidel Castro and all that, Fidel Castro was not like a player on the world stage able to get people in via the WEF. He faced pretty heavy sanctions from the US. Like whatever Cuba are doing over there, America were not into it. America were like, hell, this is all part of our globalist scheme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like Fidel Castro, and I'm well aware of the human rights issues over there in Cuba.
Judge Trudeau on what he actually does rather than...
Judge him on what he was, not who his dad is,
Yeah,
or his...
might have been.
Yeah, just because he looks a little bit like him conveniently, really.
They get bogged down by meaningless details. Stick to the things that matter. Solid point, Russell. Solid point.
But listen, guys, I think we're going to... If you're watching us on YouTube or Elon Musk's citadel of free speech, that is Twitter, we're going to leave you now because we're going to speak to Max Blumenthal, who's a fantastic journalist. Absolutely fantastic. He founded Grey Zone. He founded it, and then he bloody well edits it.
Wow.
Look what I found. Founded. Didn't found it, like find it. He founded it, like, it's foundation.
Yeah.
Then he edits it.
Right.
Nice, isn't it? For
Yeah.
Bloom. That's what
Have
Max
you ever
Blumenthal's
thought
doing.
you might start editing this?
No, mate. I find
Okay.
it too hard.
I find it too hot. Much like my dick. There's no stopping me, guys. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't function in an appropriate manner. I just can't do it. It can't be done. It can't be done, Sonny. It just can't be done. I apologize. But it is what it is. I wish I could play copyrighted music. I really do. One of these days I might try to look into what it would cost me to be able to do that. Probably too much fucking money. But hey. Maybe not. Maybe one day it'll be okay. Maybe. We shall see. That's a cool noise. Sorry. I'm sorry. I am completely out of control. There ain't no stopping me now, baby. What the fuck? Where is... It's like the Rumble stream didn't happen. It's like it didn't even happen, guys. I can't find the Rumble stream. Oh, wait. I think I found it. Okay. It was being uncooperative, but we found it, boys. It's been located. Unfortunately, Rumble's still kind of a work in progress, I think. We'll get there eventually. Right, so that was the Met Gala stuff. And the Mummy. Trudeau. Okay, we're close.
Fidel Castro and all that. Fidel Castro was not like a
Okay, we just need a little bit more. Okay.
9/11 saying that didn't found it, like find it. He founded it, like
It was a good starting point.
Then he
We'll stick with this.
Right.
Nice, isn't it? For Bloom. That's what
Have you ever thought you might start editing this?
No, mate. I find it too hard. We're going to be talking to him. We're off YouTube already, but like we're going to talk to him about. Well, I think people got the idea that it was going to be about 9/11, saying that the CIA, like the two of the 9/11 hijackers, were CIA operatives.
Recruits, yeah.
Recruits. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that 9/11 was a CIA scam, but like put together all, like, you know, look at the various things you've seen, whether it's that Loose Change documentary that used to be on YouTube. Don't know if it still is. Tell us, guys, is it still on YouTube? Can you find it now? How to tell us in the chat. Or if
I want to see what kind of evidence they have for this, because if it's substantial evidence, oh my god, I've got a new bullet in my clip for these motherfuckers. They try to argue with me about the whole 9/11 thing.
If you're like a Michael Moore type person, remember Fahrenheit 9/11 when he was saying all the Saudi royals were getting flown out of there and the Bushes and the Saudi royal family?
Yep.
You know, it used to be that you could get radical stuff from the left, and that's one of the reasons I like Max Blumenthal. I don't think he's a right-wing fascist, and I don't think he's an anti-Semite, because I feel like Blumenthal might be a Jewish name. I've not asked before. All right, Max, are you a right-wing fascist anti-Semite? Let's get that out from the top.
Well, I've been called a self-hating Jew.
That's how they do it.
And, you know, I always wondered why the self-loving Jews who call me a self-hater hate so many people, from, you know, Palestinians, Muslims. It's always a question I've had. And why they seem to favor sending U.S. taxpayer dollars to neo-Nazis in Ukraine, if, you know, they care so much about our history. But, you know, it really depends on who you ask, what label you want to apply to me.
It's harder to get to anti-Semitism accusations.
That boy clap back hard, boy. So you want to ask me that question? Ooh, I got some fucking bullets for you, boy. Pop, 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 pop. Got him.
For someone who is themselves Jewish, I would have thought, than people that are explicitly neo-Nazis, do the actual salute and everything, are down with a swastika. Like that, for me, seems like a more legit
charge of anti-Semitism. I mean, I think
maybe
we can
just a little bit more
conclusively say
legit.
that the Nazis were anti-Semites. Mate, can we ask you a little bit about the CIA infiltration of the 9/11 hijackers and how this is distinct from the kind of conspiracy theories that have circled around that event for the last 20 years or however long it is since it happened?
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. This was related to a report we ran, another masterpiece by Kit Clarenberg, who you've had on, and I've written about this case in my book, The Management of Savagery, which came out in 2019.
The Management of
when I
Savagery.
wrote that book.
What a great title, The Management of Savagery. I like it. Some shit going on outside my door right now. I don't know what the fuck. Anyway,
Which is about the history of the US and its allies using jihadists as proxies, as assets to undermine their geopolitical foes, from the Soviet Union to Syria. We didn't know as much as we know now. There had been an investigation called Operation Encore that the FBI, that involved the FBI agents who had been attempting to prevent the 9/11 attacks, or were at least investigating Al-Qaeda. And that investigation ended in 2016. The results were completely redacted. And so it took until 2021 for a 21-page filing by a guy named Don Canestraro, who is the lead investigator for the Office of Military Commissions, which was overseeing the cases of 9/11 defendants, for us to really learn what had always been suspected, and which I got at in my book. I said I suspected that two of the hijackers on American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon, had been recruited by the CIA and by a very
Hold on. Back that up.
defendants, for us to really learn what had always been suspected, and which I got at in my book. I said I suspected that two of the hijackers on American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon, had been recruited by the CIA and by a very secretive, and I would say corrupt, unit within the CIA that had been charged since 1996 with taking on Osama bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda network. It's called Alex Station. And, this is widely suspected that they had been possibly recruited by the CIA. And it was confirmed by FBI agents interviewed by Don Canestraro in this bombshell filing, which was, and of course, it was completely buried. Just like a few blogs had picked it up. And so Kit went ahead and put all of the details together for us, going back through Operation Encore and, taking us to the beginning of the cover-up of the 9/11 plot, the cover-up by the CIA.
This is huge.
That's not the same, of course, as saying that 9/11 was an inside job, and it certainly doesn't verify some of the ideas that have circulated, although, of course, it's not the only inconsistency or troubling piece of reporting that's taken place around that event. And of course, it's well established that the CIA, as you said, participated in the establishment of Al-Qaeda, funded Al-Qaeda. So it's not implausible that there were recruits from Al-Qaeda operating in with the US. It's kind of likely. Does that open the door, though, to conjecture around the events of 9/11 more broadly? And sometimes, forgive me if this is like a kind of question an idiot.
I'm sorry. I have to BRB. 2 minutes. I have a timer. I'll be back in 2 minutes or less. I'm back. Okay. We gotta get into this because I am very interested to see what else we find out. So we got confirmed CIA operatives as hijackers. That's crazy. What's the explanation for why?
Would ask.
That's what I want to know.
Possibly is derived from the fact that to some degree I am one. Isn't it like true that like Building 7, like there was a building in New York that kind of went down and then it just sort of stopped talking about it? My memories are hazy of that event, and and it's difficult to deliberately and responsibly put together narrative points that are proven.
Building 7's weird. I mean, I'm a 9/11 conservative. I get a lot of heat from people who think it was an inside job, but Building 7's just weird. I mean, I remember on the day of 9/11, just hearing that Building 7 had gone down because of the impact to the other buildings, and it just sounded weird to me. The footage looks unusual. But I prefer to stick to the facts that I really know the most about. And this case is something that, I've followed for years. The case of Khaled al-Midhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, who are the two kind of supposed muscle hijackers on American Flight 77. And it's very clear they were recruited by the CIA. So within the theories, or those who hold theories around 9/11, there's kind of three schools of thought. Did the CIA do this because they simply wanted to infiltrate Al-Qaeda and gain sources, and they protected these sources from the FBI? If the FBI had been alerted about the presence, and I'll tell you the whole story of al-Hazmi and al-Midhar in a second, but if they had not protected these sources from the FBI, the 9/11 plot would have been easily broken up. So was it just because they wanted to gain access to Al-Qaeda, or did they allow the 9/11 attacks to happen in order to produce what Paul Wolfowitz called in the weeks before 9/11, the catastrophic and catalyzing event that would allow the U.S. to wage a massive military intervention in the Middle East and carry out its...
That sounds very characteristic of a false flag operation, which is what a lot of people say that 9/11 was.
And Israel's goals. And then there's the third school of thought, which is that the U.S. government or U.S. intelligence was directly involved in the plotting of the attack in order to carry out those geopolitical and imperial objectives. And I'm in the first camp. As I said, I'm a 9/11 conservative, but these new revelations raise a lot of questions about motives.
I think it's generally, obviously, sensible to remain conservative, particularly when dealing with such sensitive matters. And even on our channel, where we fuse entertainment and conjecture, we are careful to ensure that we only use reliable information that's already been published frequently from Grey Zone, as a matter of fact. But if you apply this conservatism in this instance, where does it take you to even have the information that the CIA had operatives that were on Flight 77? I know you named them. So what? Like it could have been prevented, I suppose. Is that what you're saying?
It could have been prevented, and Al-Qaeda could have never been created. I mean, we can go back to 1979, but in this case, it's pretty fair to say, at least one component of the Day of Plains operation that had been planned for years and years and years to strike strategic targets inside the United States. One component was a Saudi CIA intelligence operation to put it conservatively, gone awry. So you have Khaled al-Midhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, two Saudi citizens, radical Al-Qaeda ideologues who appear at a 1999 meeting in Malaysia. This was a January 5th meeting in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with some of the top lieutenants of Al-Qaeda, including a figure who is involved in the bombing of the USS Cole just about a few months earlier. And here you have CIA operatives videotaping the meeting. Apparently, they got no audio. They then broke into Khalid al-Midhar's hotel room when he was transiting through Dubai after the meeting, took a picture of his passport, and found that he had a multi-entry visa to the US. Okay, so you have an hardcore Al-Qaeda operative with a multi-entry visa to the US. And not only that, he and his buddy, Al-Hazmi, were able to, from there, get on a flight to Los Angeles International Airport, walk off the flight with no interrogation or questioning, and then be picked up at the airport by someone named Omar al-Bayoumi, who is another Saudi citizen operating undercover as an employee of the Saudi aviation ministry, or as an aviation employee. So he could, I guess, get access to the airport. He then takes them to rent an apartment, gives them $1,500 a month for that apartment. These are two guys who speak not a word of English. They're picked up, according to their neighbors, in black limos every night and are meeting with strange men. They're going to flight lessons. And it later turns out that they were actually living in that apartment with an FBI informant. Bayoumi, of course, turns out to be a Saudi intelligence officer who is managing these two figures. And the FBI never learns that these two figures were in the country after attending the super summit of Al-Qaeda on their way to carry out an attack that George W. Bush was warned about in Crawford, Texas, a month before it took place in a presidential daily briefing. Bin Laden determined to strike inside the US. This was at a time when the system was blinking red, according to former US intelligence officials. And what happened was, the director of Alex Station, this corrupt and highly secretive CIA unit, which was charged with recruiting Al-Qaeda officials, or recruiting Al-Qaeda assets, Richard Blee, refused to tell the FBI's unit in charge of investigating Al-Qaeda that Al-Hazmi and al-Midhar were even inside the United States. There are so many more acts of cover-up that took place to prevent the FBI from learning about them as this plot progressed. They weren't even told that they were on the flight manifest of American Airlines Flight 77 until days after the attack. The FBI wasn't even told that they had been at a meeting in Malaysia with a planner, a known planner of the attack on the USS Cole. So the CIA covered this up all the way to 9/11. And it's the same CIA that is responsible in so many ways for fueling the rise of Al-Qaeda and keeping it alive to the present day.
And in fact, yes, you're quite right that you can sort of chart the history of the CIA to the founding of the Mujahideen, and also you can say that there are still people in power, as you obviously just did, that are participating presumably in comparable programs even now. And I guess that's when we talk about the deep state, we're talking about inaccessible institutions and bodies that are powerful, that are able to act without mandate in ways that seem to be at odds with the interests of the American population and perhaps the world at large. And
it's an out of control organization that the president himself doesn't even have in check, and yet we're doing nothing about it. When are we going to do something about it? When? People, please. This has been going on for so long, bro.
The way that the kind of global narrative is managed and enacted right up to present day conflicts and potential forthcoming conflicts involves these agencies. So sometimes, even when you're approaching it conservatively in the manner that you understandably are when it's such a potentially incendiary story, it's still difficult not to feel that the system of government, and deep government in particular, is concerning. Mate, do you suppose that when we talk about a story like the Nord Stream pipeline, which sort of increasingly appears to have been an operation conducted by the forces of this nature, do you imagine that with the burgeoning conflict between
the United States and China, Taiwan could be subject to a kind of
Similar
a
action.
Nord Stream-like event within their semiconductor industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not just, and it's not just idle talk. Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull up the name of the former U.S. general who has actually proposed a U.S. attack on Taiwan's semiconductor industry to prevent it from fall. This is a former national security advisor to Donald Trump.
While you're looking for that data, I
have it right in front of me. It's Robert O'Brien, and he was a major figure in the Trump administration's kitchen cabinet of national security advisors. And he has called for the U.S. to bomb Taiwan's semiconductor industry, which would be actually a much more serious attack on the global economy than Nord Stream. I mean, Taiwan produces the majority of semiconductors through its TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. It would mean just basically a collapse of the global economy in order to prevent the factory and the technology from falling into Chinese hands. And this is not just Robert O'Brien calling for this. We have other U.S. think tanks that have, the Center for, other U.S. think tanks, the U.S. Army War College actually made a similar suggestion. So this is not necessarily a call for a false flag attack to trigger a war, but it shows that the U.S. would willingly devastate Taiwan and Taiwan's economy to prevent this critical asset from falling into Chinese hands. And it really highlights how the U.S. sees its.
Okay, well, so I looked this up. Taiwan produces over 60% of the world's semiconductors and over 90% of the most advanced ones. 90% of the most advanced ones, and then still well over half of them in general are produced in Taiwan. Most are manufactured by a single company, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, TSMC. Yeah, that would collapse the global market, I'm sure. The ripple effect off of that would actually collapse the world economy if they were just completely brought offline. Those motherfuckers, semiconductors are used in so much. Oh, shit, I'm sorry. A little tired. Used in so much of our technology. Multiple tech companies would collapse without access to these. And then, as we've seen, highlighted very aggressively during the COVID pandemic, the U.S. and indeed global economies are being propped up by these tech industries right now. The whole damn stack of cards would crumble. Almost assuredly. There's no way they can do that. So I'm gonna go with that's probably not gonna happen. They're not gonna undermine the semiconductors. At least not to that extent. But I guess that means that they could do a less severe hit and still do substantial damage. I mean, but how severe of a hit could you do and keep the damage from backblown when you're probably not that severe? Interesting to ponder.
Allies who are really just proxies, and that includes Ukraine. The U.S. is willing to see Ukraine's economy destroyed and its best men killed to extend a war against Russia, thrown into a slaughterhouse in order to bleed Russia.
We should pull up that clip of the mainstream media where that current sitting US politicians sort of said, like where they were asked them on the mainstream, is this the semiconductors? That's like the resource wars of the 90s, isn't it? Where you sort of we have to have control of these semiconductors, and then he just plainly said on the TV, yeah, we can't lose control of them. And then he went like 10 seconds later, but actually this is a war about democracy and freedom. Just sort of said it. Democracy and freedom is what keeps us motivated. motivated. I'm glad you kept talking a moment ago, because I was, to fill time, going to ask you a question that Firegirl 2020 was asking in the chat. Did you enjoy the Met Gala? Did you ask Max if he watched?
Let's get past this.
Have you got, hey, have you got that clip anywhere? Has anyone got that out the back, or is it to Michael McCall? If you can find that, Michael McCall, was he on
Well, it is a major component, but
component. If there was this amidst this growing hostility,
is that a question for me?
You, Max, like, do you think that's a significant component? If there were no semiconductor factories in Taiwan, would this all be going down now?
Well, it is a major component, but it doesn't also explain U.S. aggression vis-a-vis Philippines toward China. I mean, this is about surrounding and encircling China, creating kind of a pressure cooker effect on China's leadership, and forcing China to spend more and more money on its military and less on its social programs, and, you know, driving this program Xi Jinping has of building a middle class and redeveloping the country. It is also about competing with China, but I assume by now the U.S. would be eager to move those semiconductor plants to a place they would consider safer, because, as Thomas Friedman wrote, Taiwan is to be the U.S. porcupine against China. Taiwan is like, if you consider the concept of Israel as explained by former Secretary of State Alexander Haig, where Israel is an unsinkable aircraft carrier. It's a colonial implant in the middle of the Middle East that's a Spartan state, armed to the teeth with the most advanced weaponry, and the U.S. is going to use it to attack any country that takes an independent or adversarial position. And that's why Israel has invaded Lebanon, attacked Hezbollah, why it's constantly bombing Syria these days, and it says it's attacking Iranian targets. It just attacked deep in Syria and homes. So that's also the role of Ukraine against Russia, a country that's controlled from the outside by the U.S.
I'm glad somebody's just coming out and saying this, okay? These are proxy war locations that the U.S. uses to get massive returns on investment for relatively minor investment of U.S. resources to put a massive drain on the resources of these other areas and their ability to oppose U.S. global dominance.
To antagonize Russia, to keep it in a constant state of war, to keep its leadership paranoid, and then Taiwan plays that role with China, and to a certain extent, South Korea, Japan, and Philippines are intended to play the same role, which is why, by the way, the U.S. is so hostile to a peace arrangement between North and South Korea.
With so many unpalatable truths, so palpably and demonstrably factual, it's clear that you require powerful machinery to prevent people assessing reality in those blunt terms. You need ongoing deep state operations. You need a compliant media. You don't need people inquiring about the true nature of geopolitics and the kind of corporate and military relationships and the kind of colonial and resource necessities that underwrite much of the action that we're describing. It's and with the ability for this kind of counter narrative to be expressed, like either on great.
Okay, we're going to move on a little bit.
And destroying Donald Trump. They're being lied is the most hated.
Correspondence dinner. What's possible to discuss is reasserted.
Yeah, I mean, what you see with the White House press correspondence dinner is the most hated group in America, hated more than even Congress, and justifiably so.
Oh, say that again.
Consensus between the media and the state is sort of reiterated, and the framing for what's possible to discuss is reasserted.
Yeah, I mean, what you see with the White House press correspondence dinner is the most hated group in America, hated more than even Congress, and justifiably so. The regular American people hate the media because they know they're being lied to. And the media is there, the elite Beltway media, giving itself awards for publishing fake stories. Going back to the Steele dossier on Russiagate, they were celebrating themselves for publishing fake stories because the means justify the ends. And then the means was humiliating
As I've said many times, this is a lie that's been told far too often. Means. Ends do not justify means. Ends do not justify means. Means justify your end. You know you're aimed at a good end when you utilize good means. You don't pick what you decide is a good end and then use whatever means necessary. That is how you end up explaining away atrocities.
And destroying Donald Trump. In this case, it's about celebrating and circling the wagons around Joe Biden, a doddering figure who, I mean, he put on a pretty good performance there, but someone who is simply a representative of the establishment and the kind of subculture that exists inside the Beltway that the rest of Americans are hostile to for justifiable reasons.
The hell?
And this is the same press that's trying to lie us into a war with China over Taiwan that's continuing to push this endless proxy war with Ukraine. That's basically a cheerleader for that war. And that was the main vessel for duping the public into supporting war with Iraq. And what they're going to do if there is conflict with, they'll cover up any false.
Sorry, my shit's going crazy at the moment. We'll get
Flag or
stabilized.
any incident that drives us into that war. And you know who knows better than the press is actually the rank and file of the US military. They do not want to go to war with China because tens of thousands of enlisted soldiers will die in the name of US empire and the so-called great power competition. That's not just according to me. That's according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which is a neoconservative oriented, very anti-China think tank in Washington, which ran 24 war games pitting the US military against China following a hypothetical Chinese invasion of Taiwan in 2026. And they found that the US lost dozens of ships, hundreds of aircraft, and tens of thousands of service members. And Taiwan's economy was devastated, which means you can assume there will be hundreds of thousands of dead Taiwanese people, maybe millions, maybe a nuclear exchange, maybe nuclear weapons reach China and Guam, maybe they reach California. Hawaii has already run emergency operations where they were told that missiles were incoming. It was a lie, but the citizens there were terrorized into believing it in order to test the response systems. So whatever you think about China, I know there are many people watching this who don't like China's system because they saw what it did in response to.
There's a thing that actually happened, and you won't hear about it on the fucking news. Hawaii actually went under fucking planned bomb scare. People were terrified for their lives. En masse. Just to test them. Without their consent.
COVID, this is about human life being devastated. And if that war ever takes place, it will produce an existential crisis inside the US that will destroy whatever's left of the veneer of democracy. And the press, those people cheering Biden like sycophantic, loyal stenographers for the empire, they will be responsible and they will be least likely to die because they'll be furthest away from the fight.
We'll look at the mainstream media now discussing the burgeoning conflict and look at the transition between truth and propaganda that takes place even within the clip. This is Michael McCall. I can't remember if it's CNN or ABC, one of them. Have a look.
Like the case that would be made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s of why America was spending so much money and military resources in the Middle East. Oil was so important for the economy. Is this sort of the 21st century version of that?
You know, I personally, I think it's about democracy and freedom.
No, darlings, you sweet people. Show the earlier clip where he says it's for semiconductors and stuff. Like there's an earlier clip on there. There's the one where he sort of goes, yeah, we need semiconductors.
He's mad at his fucking people right now.
Got to have them. They're necessary. See if you can find that one. Max, you obviously dream big because I've seen the size of your dream catch. Oh, you've got the clip now? Okay, let's have a look. You sure? Because otherwise I can wrap this nicely. But let's have...
Let's have a little look at the clip.
Make the basic case for why Americans not only should care about what happens in Taiwan, but should be willing to spill American blood and treasure to defend Taiwan.
Nobody wants that. I think the deterrence is key here. We traveled to Japan, South Korea. We are in Guam. We are meeting with our allies, our partners here, if you will. They don't have a NATO in the Pacific, but they do have partners. We want to make sure that they are ready and supportive of the United States and Taiwan. The case for Taiwan, that's a very good question. About 50% of international trade goes through the international straits, but I think more importantly, Chuck, is that the TSMC manufactures 90% of the advanced global supply of advanced semiconductor chips. If China invades and either owns or breaks this, we're in a world of hurt. There
you go. All right, Max. Hey, thanks very much for joining us for that. We really appreciate your time. And what room are you in there? Is that your house? And why is there such a big dream catcher there?
I don't have any dream catchers in my house. That would be cultural appropriation. I'm somewhere in an undisclosed location at an Airbnb in Mexico. So
for the best that you don't disclose it, some of the ideas you come out with, conservative on the subject of 9/11 or otherwise. Thanks, Max. It's great to speak to you and great to learn from you. You can get more from Max by going to thegrayzone.com. You can read his book, The Management of Savagery, and just follow Max. Love and adore Max. Cheers, Max. Lovely speaking to you, mate. That was fantastic. Okay, shall we have a look at what are we going to look at now? Are we going to we're staying on the subject of war? On the general topic of war, should we do that?
Yeah.
Hey, you're going to love this. This is Tucker Carlson. You'll obviously have seen that he's given that video, put that video out. Hundreds of millions of people have probably watched that by now, I imagine. And listen to how the Pentagon and the Department of Defense attack Tucker Carlson. And
let's hear it.
Interests, therefore,
let's hear
is
it.
Tucker Carlson speaking against. Here's the news. No, here's the effing news. Have a look.
Here's the fucking news.
No, here's the fucking news.
Tucker Carlson has broken his silence and the Pentagon and Department of Defense are cheering his departure. Is it good that the mainstream media has cleansed itself of an anti-war voice? Where will opposition to mainstream objectives come from now?
Before we hear this, we go interrupt this important news broadcast for a meme, as I am wont to do. As I am wont to do. Hold on. This is good. This is good. I promise. Look at the meme. Can I make the meme bigger? Oh. We have a cropping issue. How to sneak up on a half demon. Step 1, give her a book. Step 2. Get it? You get it? It's a funny. It's a funny, I promise. It's a funny. Alright, back to the news.
We're going to be having a look at Tucker Carlson's video response to the events around Fox News and his departure, focusing in particular on the anti-war rhetoric that Tucker Carlson regularly deployed. Now, of course, a lot of people on the left, centre left, I'd call them the neoliberal establishment, are attacking Tucker Carlson. But where else are anti-war voices going to come from? Why did Fox News get rid of Tucker Carlson? Where will Tucker Carlson go to next? And where does radical opposition to the establishment agenda come from if anybody who speaks out against the agenda is one way or another cleansed from the system? Did you see the White House press dinner? What a cozy little jamboree with Joe Biden joking about the free press and how the press and the establishment have to work together.
The free press is a pillar, maybe the pillar a free society.
How can you have an establishment and press working together to keep ordinary people ignorant and bewildered and claim that it's anything like a free country with free comms? Voices that attack the establishment, that attack the deep state, that attack the corporatization of America and indeed the world are necessary at this time. That's why Julian Assange is in prison. That's why Edward Snowden's in Russia. And that's why Tucker Carlson's no longer on Fox News, even though I disagree with Tucker Carlson about a bunch of stuff. Let's have a look at his video.
One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people, people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also, a lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening.
One of the things that I like about Tucker Carlson is he's a kind of frequency jam. The way he has those conversations with political figures where he's like, oh, okay, oh, all right. He's a difficult person to contend with, I imagine. And one of the things that surprises me is that people that oppose Tucker on cultural issues aren't willing to see that when it comes to things like the criticism of the war, the willingness to attack the establishment, the critiques of the military-industrial complex, the ongoing attacks of the deep state, that these are exactly the arguments of what was once known as the radical left just 20 years ago. Cast your mind back to the late 60s or the early 70s, the countercultural movement, the civil rights movement, Black Panthers, women's movement. You wouldn't find the radical left on the same side as like the Department of Defense and the CIA going, we've got to get rid of that guy. The attacks on radical anti-establishment voices often use the technique of saying, oh, you're far right now. But if we're far right for agreeing that the establishment needs to be took to task, then what have they become if they're on the same side as the Department of Defense or the Pentagon or the world's biggest corporations? What's happened to them?
The other thing you notice,
it doesn't matter whether you're on the left or on the right, 'cause either fucking way, you're part of the system. You're a brainwashed fucking tool.
when you take a little time off, is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated.
So it seems to be that Tucker Carlson primarily is attacking the mainstream media and obviously in particular his former employers, Fox. Those of us that were observing Tucker Carlson personally felt that he was getting disillusioned with the limitations of operating within a mainstream space. And it's interesting to observe, isn't it? And let me know what you think in the chat and the comments, that if you go on the TV and attack the war machine, attack the deep state, attack the mainstream media, attack the two-party system, that in the end you will be excluded. It makes you wonder how much control Rupert Murdoch has over Fox and how much it is a reflection of his own ideology. I used to think, well, maybe they don't care what anyone says as long as it's generating views and revenue and money and power. Like having me on there, it's like they don't care if I'm anti-establishment. They just think, who gives a shit what that little limey's saying? But now I'm starting to think, oh wow, there's the potential that voices like ours, voices like yours, can really make a difference.
And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources.
I would say that those are very important subjects, perhaps the most important subjects. Demographic change is, of course, the subject that people say suggests that Tucker Carlson is talking about race and the balance between different races in America and stuff like that. Personally, I feel that alliances between cultural groups that are not operating in the top tiers of the establishment is an absolute priority, and I wouldn't participate in the promotion of any ideas that turn people of different cultures, colours, races, ideologies against one another. Me personally, that's not the way to go. But when it comes to the debate around war, when have you seen in the mainstream media a reasoned debate about trying to pursue a diplomatic solution?
Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it. Suddenly, the United States looks very much like a one-party state.
That's exactly what Noam Chomsky is saying as well, that there is more censorship in your country, America, than there is in Russia. Noam Chomsky, about as far left as it's possible to go without it becoming, I don't know, it's not an angle anymore. You'd go back round to the right, which is what a lot of people are saying, obviously. Let me know in the chat and the comments if you think that Tucker and Chomsky are right.
That's a depressing realization, but it's not permanent. Our current orthodoxies won't last. They're brain dead. Nobody actually believes them. Hardly anyone's life is improved by them.
If you look at that White House press conference dinner and you see Joe
Bam,
Biden
Tucker.
demanding
Killing it.
American journalists be released from prison, while you know that Snowden is in exile in Russia,
All right, stop going back over this. Oh, hold up.
ideas will
Let's
come
still
from new
hear Tucker, though.
alliances. New ideas will come from
They're hysterical.
the old orthodoxies are indeed dead.
This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. The people in charge know this. That's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. They're resorting to force.
Yes, sir.
But it won't work. When honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful.
Yep.
At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink, and they become weaker.
Yep.
That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail.
Yep.
Where can you still find American?
Yep. 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 If there really is any God in the world, it is truth. For truth always prevails over the lies of the evil. Write that down.
Saying true things. There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there is hope. See you soon.
One thing to note is that the Department of Defense and the Pentagon are very pleased about Tucker Carlson's departure. At the upper levels of the Department of Defense, news of Carlson's firing from Fox News Monday was met with delight and outright glee in some corners. We're a better country without him bagging on our military every night in front of hundreds of thousands of people, said one senior DoD official. I would say that a bigger problem for the military are the fact that 50% of their budget goes directly to private military contractors like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, etc. And members of the military are significantly likely to end up homeless, are unlikely to be able to afford their own shelter, and in significant numbers are using food stamps. These things are all true. Much easier to blame Tucker Carlson for bagging on the military rather than acknowledging that the military are always used as heroes when convenient, but are discarded whenever necessary. What people are suggesting is that the fact that
there's no actual moral concern here.
50% of military budgets end up in the hands of the Pentagon, that $1,000 a year from average Americans is ending up in the hands of the MIC. Check those figures, I'm afraid it's true, is not the best way to direct the finances of a country in crisis. The following is from the American Prospect, a left-leaning publication who are willing to examine Tucker Carlson from a more interesting perspective rather than saying, oh, I don't like him. Carlson's insistent distrust of his powerful guests acts as a solvent to authority, frequently making larger than life figures of the political establishment defend arguments they otherwise treat as self-evident. Tucker's willingness to challenge and mock ruling elites went alongside an obsessively native...
Yeah, the biggest lies are the ones they never actually say. The things they want you to assume. The left operates heavily in this fashion.
Message that alienated viewers who might otherwise have embraced his populist perspective. That's one of the aspects of Tucker Carlson that I would query as a person that believes that alliances between different cultural groups are necessary to displace establishment power. His popularity with a wide audience begs the question why other nightly news shows that attacked him didn't raise the same critiques without the nativism. And the answer to that is, of course, because they ultimately support the establishment and are unwilling to advance arguments that attack establishment power. They're only willing to talk about, I would say, peripheral issues which may be important but will not attack the Death Star, the heart of the machine, the MIC,
the heart of the machine, boys.
Tucker Carlson went there, so even if you don't like him, you have to acknowledge that. Let me know in the comments in the chat if you agree or if you think I'm missing something. One answer is that Tucker Carlson tonight was an outlier in corporate-owned cable news, which is typically hostile to independent critiques of executives and political elites. The show declined to play the gatekeeping role that many of Carlson's detractors demand of mainstream media platforms. Carlson hosted heads of state in the same week as fringe characters of both the far left and far right. He tapped into populist insights, cutting through left and right-wing echo chambers and put in hard questions to corporate executives and members of the political establishment. Though Carlson spent years as a staunch libertarian, he made a populist turn around the time of Trump's election, rejecting many of the free market doctrines he'd previously espoused. Republican leaders will have to acknowledge that market capitalism is not a religion. Market capitalism is a tool, like a staple gun or a toaster. You'd have to be a fool to worship it, Tucker said in a typical segment. Our system was created by human beings for the benefit of human beings. We do not exist to serve markets, just the opposite. What
just
even
the opposite. Markets exist to serve the people. And that's the thing we're losing. We're losing, boys. completely losing sight of. Markets are meant to serve the people. The government is meant to serve the people. The police are meant to serve the people. None of these things are serving the people anymore. What the fuck are we doing?
Critique reveals is that Tucker Carlson is aware that free market ideology is beyond just economic utility and is being used to advance a particular agenda that benefits a particular strata of society and that is deleterious to the values of the majority of people, and that we need new principles and new values, or perhaps traditional old ones, to be at the core of our belief systems. Without that, we have apathy and inertia in one portion of the culture and a very insidious, invisible ideology, making sharp incisions throughout the body of the rest of the state. That passage of his monologue could have been lifted from a stump speech by Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, progressive senators whose views on economic policy Carlson has at times echoed. Carlson often hosted segments focused on big tech with guests calling for the breakup of Silicon Valley giants and increased antitrust enforcement. He's been a frequent critic of trade policies that offshore jobs, a position that's found an unlikely ally in the Biden administration. His 2019 story on how hedge fund manager Paul Singer orchestrated a merger of Cabela and Bass Pro Shops that destroyed a town in Nebraska had few equals in broadcast news as a critique of financialization's impact on neighborhoods and local business. Those are the kind of stories and kind of moments that are going to appeal to a lot of people, because many of us are sensing that the current orthodoxy is leading to more centralization, a greater loss of jobs and community assets, a closure of small businesses, all things that started to become exacerbated during the pandemic. Let me know in the chat in the comments if you agree. Someone speaking out on behalf of those issues is going to reach a broad audience, and it's interesting to see that someone that speaks out on those issues is ultimately extracted from Fox News. In the past year, Carlson also broke with the Washington political establishment to express skepticism about the US sending tens of billions of dollars in weapons and security assistance to Ukraine. He has questioned the prevailing insistence that the war is not a proxy battle between superpowers and that the United States is not at war with Russia. The television host censured the Biden administration after comments made by the president that indicated the goal of US involvement in Ukraine was regime change, which White House spokespeople then had to walk back. Carlson repeatedly invited on independent journalists and commentators critical of American military adventurism. Political commentator Jimmy Dore told Fox News viewers, "Your enemy is not China, your enemy is not Russia, your enemy is the military-industrial complex." And it's amazing to see those kind of voices on Fox News. You're unlikely to see...
I don't know. I do think their main enemy is the military-industrial complex. I'm not so quick to say that China's not also a major enemy. I mean, look at what they're doing to their people. I'm not big on American interventionism, but Jesus Christ. There's such a massive nation treating their people so horribly. The social credit system, the fucking slave wages, the blatant communist dictatorship. Fuck, man. I thought Russia's a lot better, but at least they're not as big, for one. As much of an economic powerhouse, and they're not encroaching on other lands the way that China is. And they don't have massive espionage efforts going on inside of our country the way China does. So, yeah, I'm not going to say that China's not the enemy, but our enemy, I definitely agree that our enemy first and foremost is the military-industrial complex itself.
Those kind of voices on Fox News after the departure of Tucker. So who benefits from that? Did you see Tucker Carlson asking outright, what is the intention in this war? When would it end? When do we know that the objectives have been met? Is there a limit to the amount of expenditure? And I would add to that, is there a democratic process? Could we vote for how much aid to spend? Could we simultaneously be pursuing a diplomatic solution? Those things didn't used to be called right-wing talking points. And the fact that they suddenly are suggests that there's something bigger happening in the culture than just, I don't no, Tucker Carlson is a terrible guy. While Carlson largely dedicated his show to criticizing Democratic lawmakers, he also excoriated the failures of Republican leadership. In one recent instance, Carlson aimed his signature incredulity at Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's comment that the most important thing going on in the world right now is the war in Ukraine. No, the most important thing going on in the world right now is the state of your country, the one you're supposed to run, the people you're supposed to represent, whose lives you're supposed to care about, the ones who can't buy food or gas, the people overdosing on fentanyl, he said. The fact that that voice is reaching a large audience, for me, is encouraging and shows that there are people that care about issues that are ultimately about the failing social fabric of America. If the mainstream media, as represented by CNN and MSNBC, are not willing to carry those messages, are not willing to go against corporate interests on the issues just listed in that one statement, then I think it's not only likely but beneficial that voices from elsewhere take up that cause. That ain't the fault of the populist right. That is the failure of the neoliberal left.
Yes, sir.
From dangerous rhetoric. Baked into that conflict would have been, right, the left, surely. A chorus of op-eds on Monday cheered his ouster and the move to rescue his very impressionable audience from dangerous rhetoric. Baked into that statement, of course, is the ongoing assumption that you are stupid, that you can't make decisions from yourself, that you need didactic pedagogy instead of informed news giving you as balanced an opinion as possible. And of course, Tucker Carlson opined, and of course he had a perspective, but often, frequently, it was at odds with the establishment. People don't want to be spoken down to like children anymore. I believe people want to be given the information, given the chance to have a conversation, and potentially form new alliances that might be surprising. But cable news may struggle to find an entertainer equally skilled at skewering comfortable pieties on the left and right. So there you are. While you have a White House press dinner that celebrates the cozy relationship between the state and the media, you are ousting simultaneously significant and somewhat radical voices from the mainstream. Don't be surprised that there's room in the information age for anti-establishment narratives, that there's room for radical voices, that there's essentially room for change. When Tucker Carlson says in that video, the old orthodoxies are dying, he's absolutely right. There's a clear choice that has to be made. Do you empower communities to live differently and democratically, or do you double down on centralization by creating conflict and conflagration? It's clear that the latter has been chosen, and it's clear that the former is what's required.
Absolutely. Now we're going through a commercial. We're back at it.
Well, she's got a point.
But then Rogue Nation, you Fire Girl 2020. What's wrong with hairy balls? Look at that doggo. She says.
Well, she's got a point.
But then Rogue Nation, you like hairy balls in your mouth?
What's going on?
Well, just the chat. That's why it's worth joining the chat.
Oh, it's the chat, right.
These are not my views.
I always wonder.
They are meant to be hairy, says Lady Girl 3112. Then it's gone into something about race there. This is the chat. It depends how hairy. Fire Girl 2020. I mean, how hairy can a...
The distaste on his face, right?
Conspiracy theory or something instead.
You'd rather talk about 9/11
than
sort of a private matter.
Taiwan or something.
Taiwan.
Yeah.
Taiwan to have a war with China.
That's it.
I think we've hit the end here, boys. I'm gonna cut it now so that we don't have to risk that fucking music playing and ruining my VOD. Because it does. Every time that music plays, I get a copyright on my fucking VOD. And I fucking hate it. It's so fucking annoying. Go. I need a thing where I can like press a button. Like a Stream Deck situation set up where I can like press a button and then play the Napoleon Dynamite. Go. That would be good, right? I think that would be good. With that said, given that we are already so far past the hour, as we come to close on the Stay Free with Russell Brand segment for the day, you're going to go ahead and call the stream for the day. I have other things I must be doing, yes. We're going to game tomorrow, though. I guarantee it, alright? It's going to be a much longer stream tomorrow. We're going to be doing some gaming. Hope you guys come and hang out with me then. But for now, I wish you all a blessed day. Hope it's great. I hope life is the journey you need it to be. And I will catch you next time. Until then, I'm out. Peace.